Hello everyone. So probably one of my most requested features from this series is to actually show when I go out and grab the games. Up until now I haven't really had a good way of doing this because usually I'm by myself, so I don't have like a camera crew or somebody else who can hold the camera for me. And there's so many times when I go out to find stuff that I don't really find anything. So I kind of just show everything all at once as I've gotten them and collected them over a period of time, usually about once a month. And then I release the video on it. But every once in a great while, I actually get the opportunity to actually make a trip that is more dedicated to just finding retro games. Usually it's tied to a business trip or vacation or something like that. Whenever I tend to leave the Tri-County area that I live in, that's when I go and make these trips. And it just so happens I'm about ready to leave for one right now. So let's go ahead and find some games here. I'm not quite sure what to call this. Let's call it thrift retro game hunting. Now this is my kind of store. To tell you the truth, compared to a lot of other places I go, this place is very well organized. Looking up here, you can see thrown in with the PlayStation 1 titles are some Dreamcast and some Sega CD titles. I don't see these too often in my area. And the first one I see here is Fahrenheit for the 32X and the Sega CD. It doesn't have a 32X cartridge, it actually just uses the 32X's graphics chip to provide more colors for the full motion video. Lethal Enforcers 2 also intrigued me, even though it came with this generic case. However, Batman Returns' case looked a lot better than the rest. I think that's because this was previously a Blockbuster rental. You can tell by the inside of the case here. Thankfully, I know this store will resurface all of the discs, so I won't have an issue playing them if I buy them. $10 a piece is actually about the going rate for these, so I'll have to keep these in consideration. Looking through some of their PS1 titles, 2 Extreme, Cool Borders, Mech Warrior, and Destruction Derby all caught my attention. On the other side of the aisle, they have a lot of PlayStation 2 games. And I actually think that this is about the perfect time to be collecting PlayStation 2 titles, because a lot of people grew up with the system, but it hasn't really gotten too crazy yet where some of these titles have escalated in value to a prohibitive expense. First title that caught my eye was Star Wars Battlefront 2. I actually have this already, but I've been collecting these for networking them across several PlayStation 2s. I've been doing the same thing with the original Star Wars Battlefront, so I was glad to see this one. And Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal, this one can also be networked for the multiplayer mode. This actually wasn't previously on my radar because I don't find this game too often for the PS2 anyway. And I always like to check these out to see if they come with the manuals inside because sometimes you need the directions on how to network these games. I also was interested in these Prince of Persia games. I didn't actually get into Prince of Persia until the PS3 era, so I actually do not own them for the PlayStation 2. And even though I can't network these, I decided to go ahead and get them because I didn't already have them. Oh, and here's something that was kind of neat. This one already had the disc inside. I remember part of the way through this store I was actually a bit distracted due to a kid screaming his lungs out, which I've come to expect in stores like these. But anyway, over here I found a treasure trove of racing games that can be networked, so I went ahead and picked up a few of these. I kind of think it's crazy how much Jak and Daxter has fallen off people's radar since it only had a PlayStation 2 release and then a remake, or a remaster, on the PlayStation 3. But I really enjoy these games, and for $3.99, someone's going to find this to be very enjoyable. I already have the original Jak and Daxter as well as its remake on the PS3, and I already have the original Kingdom Hearts as well and its remake on the PS4, but it's still kind of nice to see these floating out in the wild. And here I found a game called Juiced, which I had never played. However, I did notice on the back that it is network compatible and they have several copies, so for $3.99 each, I decided to go ahead and grab some. It's also worth noting that this store always runs a special, where if you buy a certain number of games, you get 1 or 2 free, and they were running a special deal today, so it actually ended up working out a lot better than I was initially thinking buying these games. Strangely enough, though, I noticed that Juiced 2 did not have network capabilities, so I didn't end up getting this game at all. Here is the original Killzone, a series I actually didn't play until the PlayStation 4, as it was one of the first games released for that console. Now it says for online the Ethernet broadband is required, and I'm sure these games are all offline since they were released, but it also has the network adapter 1 to 16 players, which should still work, so I'm going to try this one out. And again, it comes with a manual, so that shouldn't be too bad. And they still have several good games here, it's just I already own them, and so since I don't need them and I try to focus on games that I don't already have, I wasn't able to pick any of these up. But I think if you're looking for a lot of good games that are not as retro as like the Nintendo Entertainment System, but not quite as modern as the PS3, the PlayStation 2 is probably your best, but it's going to be the cheapest to get into collecting for. In the exact opposite of that, right next to their PlayStation 2 games, I think the Gamecube is probably the one that's about to get very expensive. Since this console didn't really sell as well as like the PlayStation 2 or the Xbox back in its day, I think the rarity of these titles are starting to drive the price up just a little bit. And speaking of that, here is a good example. Here is Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, the original, for $40. This did get an HD remake for the Wii U, which I also did purchase, and I think if the Wii U had been more successful, that would have driven the price of this version down a little bit, but I think this is about as rare as the Wii U version is, so... But one thing to be careful of is that this does not include the manual, and they're charging a price that says it should be complete in box. So not really worth it to me, and I think I already own this. I'll have to double check that. Making my way back down the aisle, I did see The Legend of Spyro: A New Beginning. Again, something I already own, but just something I don't see out in the wild too often. Not a bad price either. A lot of people who are fans of the classic Spyro games were not a big fan of the reboot. I guess I was myself included, but I ended up playing through this game. Though it's been a little while, so I can't really say exactly what I thought of it, but I don't remember it being too bad. Alright, let's keep moving back in time here to the Nintendo Entertainment System. These are a lot harder to show because usually these are kept behind a case. I've been in some stores where if they're under a certain value, like under $5, they'll just leave them sitting out. Guess they don't care if you take them or not. But here they have all of them behind the case, even the $1.99 ones, and that I don't understand. But anyway, oh my gosh! I am going to note that I've been back to this store since, and it is now gone. So someone ended up paying this price for it. I think this is the reason why I'm never going to own a complete NES collection. I could imagine that somebody woke up that morning, walking into the store thinking, I'm going to buy a PS4 and save some money. And instead, they decided to spend more money to get this Nintendo game. Okay, rant over, let's move on. But underneath the NES games, they have the Super Nintendo games. They have a few complete in box, but I don't really collect those because they're just more money for the same game, at least as far as I'm concerned. And on the very bottom, they have their Game Gear games, which I do own a Game Gear, but I don't collect too much for. And here's their Atari games, which I have since kind of stopped collecting. I liked collecting these better when they were all just indiscriminately 99 cents, and you can play whichever game you wanted. Now they have them individually priced, and some of them over $10, and I don't think any Atari game is really that enjoyable to me. So I did have footage of the Sega Genesis games that I, for some reason, can't find, but I did keep my footage of this Nintendo backpack. That's pretty awesome. I do like this stuff, but with the amount of collecting I do, I just really can't afford to do both, collecting the memorabilia along with the actual games. And the last thing I looked at before I left this store were the Game Boy games. I actually found one that I've been looking for a while, but the rest were pretty generic. But anyway, that is all that I collected for this store. Let's take a look at all the items I was actually able to get. So one thing I was not able to show very clearly were the NES titles that I got. There weren't any huge, remarkable titles, these were just ones that were missing from my collection that I thought I'd like to give a try. And as I'm watching this now, I realize I have to clean off those stickers still. But anyway, as per usual, let's go ahead and take a look at the lot, and take a look at what it's valued at. But overall, this was not a bad pickup. Nothing really huge and remarkable, but I did get some games that I'm looking forward to playing. If you guys would like to see more videos like this, where I actually show where I found the games and how I found the games, along with a showcase at the end of all the games that I got, please let me know in the comments below, leave a like on this video, and let me know, because I think I've got a way of doing this, maybe not from now on, but every once in a while I could showcase one of these for you. That's it, guys. That is going to wrap it up for this video. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned because I have more content coming. I'll see you guys next time. If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, if you enjoy the content of this channel, please remember to click on this subscribe button. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.